Oh, landmines and jellyfish. Welcome back to Knives, I guess. That keeps happening. What the hell is that? Well, while I try to figure out what in the hell that was, let's take a look at the Cold Steel 1911. So this thing is $23.95 on Amazon, which, that is Cold Steel. Nice, well-rounded budget blades. Now we got a 4-inch long Gryvex handle. Our pocket clip is tip up, which is the Lord's carry. You got a flipper tab. Let's flick the bean. You got a 3-inch long blade, and the steel is 4034 stainless. I haven't had anything in 4034 stainless that I know of. I think the other budget cold steels I have are 8CR. I could be wrong, but what this does mean is we got a new steel to throw in the box for Cardboard Slayer. So it was so good to carry some cold steel after last week's Gerber Quadrant and, some of the other less expensive knives that, weren't cold steel. One thing I desperately missed was that cold steel factory edge. And this factory edge is cold steel factory edge. If you know, you know. And I mean, the saran wrap on pallets, that thing blasted through it. The bottom part with a little bit of tension, like you're cutting water. Cutting it sideways, kind of, I guess you'd call it with the grain, is the best way to put it. It did okay if I went slow. If I tried to go fast on that, it started balling up and tearing, so I had to be a little bit more careful. And that only came up a couple times when I was cutting stacks of pallets apart. They'd build a pallet halfway up and then take another pallet and sit it on top of that and wrap it in plastic, so I'd have to cut the top pallet free to lift it and get it off of the bottom pallet. A lot of knives really struggle with that, so it's not the 1911's fault. It's not the factory edge's fault. It did good on that as long as I was careful with what I was doing. A lot of the edges I've had, no matter how slow you go, no matter how careful you are, it will tear that and it won't cut it. So very good factory edge. And that's one of the reasons I love cold steel. And I get asked a lot what my favorite company is. And I think I'm hitting the point now where with some confidence I can say it's Cold Steel. They make a lot of stuff that I do want, some aspirational stuff, not necessarily Grail stuff. I don't think you could call like a $240 knife a Grail knife. Aspirational, yes. Something that you can get if you reach for it and wait a little while, absolutely. So you can kind of see where the edge is. It's a really good edge. And carrying it in the waistband, I definitely knew it was there. I could feel it. You got some not hard 90 angles, but relatively pronounced angles like right here. You got this poking out of the dingus end right here, and you got the checkered texture. Now, the checkered texture and everything that goes into this is to be reminiscent of the handle and the grip on a 1911 pistol. So that's part of what drew me into it. And of course, as far as handguns go, the 1911 is my favorite platform, partly because it's what I own, and partly because it's what I know how to take apart, clean, and put back together. Like, I have experience with that. And, I'm a bit too financially destitute to really explore collecting and playing with firearms if the content of the channel hasn't given that away. And, it did really well carrying, and I did what I was supposed to do, and I keep meaning to do, and I gave it about a half a day carrying it in the pocket. It wasn't that bad. It had the same single problem carrying in the pocket everything else does, is trying to get in there and get keys and stuff out of the pocket without removing the knife first. It wasn't quite as bad as other knives have been, but it was definitely that same old problem. Let's see. The pocket clip. This thing is strong as hail. It's really hard to get it to move at all when I'm prying up on it with my thumb. So when you do get it clipped in, it's not going anywhere. Going into the pocket over that hem, no problem whatsoever. Trying to get it tucked into the waistband, that took a little bit of work to do. And that's just, this pocket clip is super strong, and the texturing on there gives it some resistance going in. But once it's in, it's really hard to move it around while it's clipped in. I mean, really hard. In the pocket, it just didn't move. It felt incredibly secure. It was easy to pull out of the pocket, easy to put back in. It did really good with that. It did really well. The only real drawback that I have come across is I put it through a micro cardboard slayer. You know, I took a box to the station and I broke it down, and I learned a couple things real fast. One of those, the way the edges ground combined with the grind of the blade, it had a bit more resistance on that cut than it felt like it should have. That was 30-pound crush test cardboard, so nothing too crazy, but I had to lean pretty hard on it to get a cut. And while I was doing that, big old hot spot right here immediately. Like, this got hot spotted right out of the gate. So for doing that particular cut and having to push hard on it, this thing is not comfortable. So when we do the cardboard slayer on it, it's going to be a journey. However, we've got 4034 stainless. We haven't had that on cardboard slayer before. We haven't had cold steel on the cardboard slayer before. I don't want this to be indicative of every cold steel, mind you. It will be indicative of this particular design, but what we're looking at is the blade steel and ergonomics for any given knife, not an entire company. So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting experience. I don't know what to expect. Hopefully one of you guys in the comments can tell me, like, is this better than 440? Is this better than 8CR? Like, I just don't know. I really don't. What else? The fit and finish, of course, are right there where they need to be. They definitely got the fit and finish nailed. They always do. It's cold steel. And the flipper tab right here, the dingus on this does stick out a bit far. Let's flick the beam. But it works. The flipper tab didn't really get in the way of anything. There wasn't a problem there. I didn't run into any issues. I would have liked it to be a bit lower profile, but that is such a small complaint. And of course, they got the safety on here that locks it open, which is good. But I kind of wish they had it going the other way where it locked it closed. Because, you can lock it up halfway here and it still opens. That, and it ain't going to close. And that's weird because, if you're pushing into a hard puncturing cut that could fail the lock, once that lock fails, it's going anyways. Like, the safety here is just a little bitty dingus in that, you can barely see it right there. But it's the dingus that appeared to, let's see. Yeah, you can see it move there. It's tiny. It's not going to stop the lock from failing on you when you're closing it. The only thing it stops is accidentally pressing it with this right here while you're cutting. And the only time that matters is if you're doing puncturing cuts or putting pressure on the back of the blades. So, I kind of don't see the point of it, but that's just me. I'm sure somebody else can see a much more valid use case for it, but I don't see it. I think it's a little extra feature, something to put on the box, something like that, a little bit of market wanketeering. But that's just me. And, overall, this thing's really good. It's really good for light duty use. You can probably use it for heavy carry or heavy use. Give it some beating. It's just, like I said, that one cut that I was doing, the hot spot right here showed up pretty much immediately. And we're going to find out when this thing gets picked out for cardboard slayer how it does long term with those. But as it stands right now, yeah, it's a good little knife. And for 24 bucks, it's kind of hard to argue with. It's cold steel for 24 bucks. Cold steel's fit and finish quality, all that is there. And you really can't argue with it. But, we're going to find out what the stainless does. I'm assuming somebody here is going to know enough about this to tell me what to expect. Because we've got a pretty good baseline for how various steels do. And by the way, I am fixing to start sharpening some stuff up to do the experimental cardboard slayer to see if that 18-degree edge gives any extra time to the wear on 8CR. And we're also doing one of the Walmart Ozark Trail knives because we know that lasted an hour before it went down. And maybe we can get it up to 2 hours. I don't know. We're going to learn. But yeah, so that'll be fun. And all that being said, thanks for looking at my crap. Subscribers, you guys are awesome. We made it over 1,000. I'm fixing to start boxing up the giveaway stuff and getting that ready to mail out. And yeah, comments. I love some feedback. If you got one, let me know what you think. If you know anything about this steel, let me know. But all that being said, y'all have a nice day.